The October wind carried the scent of saltwater and rain through Seattle's waterfront district. Nora Bennett pulled her thin denim jacket tighter around her shoulders, knowing it would do little against the bitter cold seeping into her bones. At 28 years old, she had imagined her life would look different. She had pictured career success, a loving partner, stability. Instead, she found herself wandering through Cascade Park after midnight, too ashamed to face another night at the overcrowded shelter. Her reflection in a darkened shop window showed what 3 months of unemployment and heartbreak had done. Her auburn hair, once glossy and well-maintained, now hung in a simple ponytail. Dark circles shadowed her green eyes. Her ivory skin had lost its healthy glow. The burgundy sweater she wore, a gift from her mother before their falling out, was starting to fray at the cuffs. Her black jeans were clean but worn thin at the knees. She had maintained her dignity as best she could, but tonight that dignity felt like a heavy burden. The park bench appeared through the mist like an invitation. Nora sank onto its cold surface, finally allowing herself to stop moving, stop pretending she had somewhere to be. Her phone had died hours ago, which meant her former roommate Christina could not reach her with more questions about the rent money Nora could not provide. The severance pay from her marketing position at Trend Forward Media had vanished faster than she had thought possible. Rent, bills, her ex-fiancé's debts that somehow became her responsibility, it all added up to nothing left. The weight of loneliness. Monday had been the final day at her job. 6 years of dedication, late nights, successful campaigns, all dismissed with a corporate restructuring announcement. Tuesday brought the discovery that her fiancé Bradley had been unfaithful for months, his apology hollow and practiced. Wednesday through Sunday had been a slow descent into this moment, sitting alone in a park after midnight, wondering how life had unraveled so completely. Nora pressed her palms against her eyes, trying to hold back tears that came anyway. She had always been the strong one, the friend everyone relied on, the daughter who never complained. But tonight, the weight of pretending crushed her. She needed something she could not name: comfort, connection, proof that someone in this massive city cared whether she existed. "Just hold me," she whispered to the empty darkness, her voice breaking. "Please, someone just hold me tonight." The words escaped like a prayer, desperate and raw. She did not expect an answer. She did not notice the man sitting 3 benches away until he stood and moved closer. An unexpected response. Julian Foster had come to Cascade Park seeking escape from another suffocating evening of business dinners and fake conversations. At 35, he had built an empire in cloud computing technology, but success had cost him genuine human connection. His navy pea coat was tailored, his dark jeans expensive, his leather boots handcrafted in Italy. Everything about his appearance spoke of wealth, yet his hazel eyes held a loneliness that money could not cure. He had been sitting in the shadows for over an hour, watching the city lights reflect off Elliott Bay, when he heard her broken whisper. Something in her voice cut through his carefully constructed walls. He turned to see her properly, this young woman with tears streaming down her face, vulnerability displayed without shame or pretense. Julian approached slowly, not wanting to startle her. His 6-foot frame and broad shoulders might seem intimidating, but he kept his movements gentle, his expression open. "Forgive me," he said softly, his voice carrying a warmth that surprised even him. "I could not help but hear you. Are you all right?" Nora looked up, startled. Even through her tears, she registered his striking features, the strong jawline covered with light stubble, the kind eyes that seemed to actually see her pain rather than look past it. There was something in his bearing that spoke of confidence, but his expression held genuine concern, not pity. "I did not think anyone else was here," she managed, wiping her face with trembling hands. Julian hesitated only briefly before sitting beside her, maintaining respectful distance. "Sometimes this park is the only honest place in the entire city," he said. "Everything else feels like performance." A moment of recognition. They sat in silence for several minutes. Julian found himself observing her profile, the elegant curve of her neck, the way she held herself with dignity despite obvious distress. Something about her felt familiar, though he knew they had never met. It was as if his soul recognized hers across whatever distance had separated them until this moment. "Rough week?" he finally asked. Nora let out a sound between a laugh and a sob. "Rough life, more accurately." She turned to study his face in the amber glow of streetlights. "You look like someone who has never had a rough day." "Appearances lie," Julian replied with unexpected honesty. "I have had plenty of rough days. I have just gotten skilled at hiding them." Something in his tone made Nora truly look at him. This well-dressed stranger who had found her at her lowest point spoke to her like an equal, like her pain mattered, like she mattered. "I should go," she said without conviction, making no move to leave. "Should and want are different things," Julian observed gently. Fresh tears spilled down Nora's cheeks. "I just feel so incredibly alone. Like I could disappear and nobody would notice." Without thinking, without calculating consequences or considering propriety, Julian opened his arms slightly. "You said you needed someone to hold you." The embrace that changed everything. Nora froze. Every rational thought screamed warnings about accepting comfort from strangers. But something deeper, some instinct beyond logic, told her this man was safe. She leaned into his embrace, and Julian's arms closed around her with surprising tenderness for someone so strong. She smelled like lavender and rain and fit against his chest as if she had always belonged there. Julian felt something crack open in his carefully guarded heart, something he had protected for years behind walls of success and solitude. For the first time since building his fortune, he felt fully present, fully human. They stayed that way as the park grew quieter around them. Two wounded souls finding unexpected peace in each other's arms. Neither spoke, afraid words would break whatever magic held them. But both felt something fundamental shifting, something that would alter the trajectory of their lives. When Nora finally pulled back, her eyes met his in the dim light. "Thank you," she whispered. "I did not know I needed that until it happened." "Thank you," Julian replied, meaning it with his entire being. "I did not know I needed it either." As Nora gathered her small backpack and stood to leave, Julian felt panic rise in his throat. He could not let her vanish into the night, could not let this moment be their only connection. "Harbor Brew," he said quickly. "The coffee shop on First Avenue. Do you know it?" Nora paused, looking back at him with cautious hope. "I know it. I am usually there around 8 in the morning," Julian said, his usual confidence absent. "Good coffee. Quiet corner tables. Safe place to sit." Nora studied his face for a long moment, seeing something there that made her damaged heart flutter with unexpected hope. "Maybe I will see you there." "I hope so," Julian said simply. She walked away into the misty darkness, and Julian watched until she disappeared. He looked down at his hands, hands that could still feel her warmth, the trust she had placed in him. He had held women before, but never like this. Never with such pure need meeting such unexpected tenderness. As he finally walked toward his car, Julian Foster realized everything had changed. He did not even know her name, but he knew he could not let her go. Nora stood outside Harbor Brew at 7:55, questioning every decision that had led her here. She had spent the night at a shelter, lying awake on a narrow cot, replaying the stranger's embrace. The warmth of his arms, the safety she had felt with someone whose name she did not even know. Morning sun caught the copper highlights in her hair as she finally pushed through the glass door. Today she wore her interview clothes, a cream blouse tucked into black slacks, her only pair of professional shoes polished to hide their age. Sometimes dressing like the person she wanted to be helped her feel less broken, more capable of rebuilding her shattered life. The coffee shop hummed with morning energy. Espresso machines hissed, newspapers rustled, quiet conversations blended into comfortable white noise. Nora ordered black coffee, her budget too tight for anything fancy, and scanned the room with nervous anticipation. He was there. The stranger from last night sat in the far corner behind a sleek laptop, financial report spread across the table. Even in casual clothes, a charcoal sweater that emphasized his athletic build and dark jeans, he commanded attention. His hazel eyes were focused on his screen until he sensed her presence and looked up. Their eyes met across the crowded cafe, and Nora felt that same flutter of recognition from the night before. His face transformed with a smile that made him look younger, more approachable. He stood partially, an old-fashioned gesture of respect that touched her unexpectedly. "You came," he said, his voice warm with genuine pleasure. "I was nearby," Nora replied, then immediately felt foolish for the obvious lie. "Of course," he agreed with a knowing smile that suggested he saw through her excuse but found it charming rather than annoying. "Would you join me? Learning each other's stories." She slid into the chair across from him. In daylight, she could see details missed in darkness. A small scar above his left eyebrow. The way his dark brown hair showed distinguished silver at the temples. The expensive watch worn with casual indifference, suggesting wealth he neither flaunted nor hid. "I am Julian," he said, extending his hand. "Nora," she replied, noting how his hand engulfed hers, warm and strong despite his obvious success. "Nora," he repeated, as if testing how her name felt. "It suits you. Strong but gentle." She laughed softly, a genuine sound that surprised them both. "You do not even know me." "Not yet," Julian agreed, his gaze steady. "But I would very much like to." His directness both thrilled and terrified her. Bradley had never looked at her like this, like she was worth understanding, worth the effort of discovery. Bradley had looked at her like a comfortable option, not a choice he celebrated. "What do you do, Julian?" Nora asked, deflecting attention from herself. "I work in technology solutions," he said with self-deprecating humor. "Cloud computing, data security. Very exciting dinner conversation material." Nora studied his face, sensing more to the story. The expensive watch, the confident bearing, the way other customers occasionally glanced his way with what looked like recognition. This was not just any technology worker. "And you?" Julian asked gently. "Currently between opportunities," Nora said carefully. "I was in marketing until recently. 6 years at the same firm, then restructuring happened." Julian nodded without pressing for painful details. Marketing requires real creativity, understanding what motivates people, what makes them trust a brand. That takes intelligence and empathy. "I thought I was good at it," Nora admitted, surprised by her honesty. "Turns out I was replaceable." "Or maybe you were excellent at it and they made a terrible mistake," Julian suggested. Sometimes companies lose their best people because they focus on spreadsheets instead of souls. Unexpected vulnerability. The simple validation hit her with unexpected force. When had someone last defended her, even in such a small way? Bradley had certainly never bothered. Her former colleagues had offered sympathetic looks but no real support. Her family had responded to her crisis with judgment rather than comfort. Their conversation flowed easier than it should have between strangers. Julian asked thoughtful questions, not about her resume or relationship history, but about her favorite books, her opinions on whether the city had lost its character to tech money, her thoughts on what made a place feel like home. "You are not what I expected," Nora said during a comfortable pause. "What did you expect?" Julian asked with genuine curiosity. "I do not know. Someone who approaches crying women in parks." She gestured vaguely. "Maybe someone with ulterior motives, some kind of agenda." Julian's expression grew serious. "I should be clear about something. I did not approach you with any agenda, Nora. I heard someone in pain and could not walk away. That is the complete truth." The sincerity in his voice made her chest tighten. "Why could you not walk away?" Julian was quiet for a long moment, his fingers tracing the rim of his coffee cup. "Because 17 years ago, I was 18 years old and crying on a different park bench. My parents had just died in a car accident. I had nobody, nothing. And people walked past me like I was invisible. I promised myself that if I ever saw someone in that position, would stop. I would acknowledge their pain. The rawness of his admission hit Nora like a physical force. This man who seemed to have everything had once been shattered too. Before she could respond, Julian's phone buzzed insistently. He glanced at it and frowned. I apologize. I need to take this. Of course, Nora said quickly, gathering her things. You probably have important work to do. Actually, Julian said, standing as she did, I was hoping we could do this again tomorrow morning. The hope in his voice was carefully controlled, but she heard it clearly. I do not want to interfere with your schedule. Nora. The way he said her name stopped her mid-sentence. I have not enjoyed a conversation this much in years. Please. She looked into his eyes and saw something that made her damaged heart race. Not just interest, but genuine care, real connection. Okay, she whispered. Same time? Julian asked, already knowing he would rearrange his entire morning around her answer. Same time. Seeds of something more. As she walked toward the door, Julian called after her. Nora. She turned back. Thank you for giving a stranger a chance. For trusting me enough to come today. Outside on the sidewalk, Nora walked slowly toward the bus stop, her mind spinning. There was something about Julian that did not quite add up. The expensive watch, the deference from other customers, the way he carried himself. But there was also his genuine kindness, his unexpected understanding of pain, his ability to see her as a whole person rather than a problem to be solved. As she boarded the bus heading back to the shelter district, one thought echoed in her mind. Tomorrow could not come fast enough. But another darker thought followed close behind. What if she was setting herself up for another devastating heartbreak? What if Julian's interest faded once he knew the full truth of her situation? She did not notice the black sedan that had been parked across from Harbor Brew, or the photographer inside who had captured every moment of their coffee shop encounter. She did not see the photos being uploaded to gossip websites, images that would change everything. The pattern repeats. The next morning, Nora arrived at Harbor Brew at 7:45, unable to wait. Julian was already there, 2 coffee cups on the table. He had remembered she took hers black. Such a small gesture, but it meant he had been paying attention, that she mattered enough to remember. You are early, he said with a warm smile. So are you, Nora replied, sliding into what was already becoming her chair. They talked for 2 hours. Julian shared stories about building his company from nothing, about the loneliness of success, about how wealth had brought him everything except genuine connection. Nora opened up about her family's disappointment when she chose marketing over medicine, about Bradley's betrayal, about the shame of needing help. There is no shame in needing help, Julian said firmly. There is only shame in refusing to give it when you can. Easy to say when you are successful, Nora replied without bitterness, just honesty. I have been where you are, Julian said quietly. After my parents died, I had nothing. I slept in my car for 3 months. I know what it feels like to wonder if you matter, if anyone would care if you disappeared. Nora reached across the table and took his hand without thinking. You matter. Julian's fingers closed around hers. So do you, Nora. More than you know. The moment stretched between them, charged with something neither wanted to name but both felt deeply. Finally, Julian spoke again. I want to help you. Not out of pity, but because I can and because you deserve support. I cannot accept your money, Nora said firmly. Not money, Julian clarified. Connections. I know people hiring in marketing. Let me make some introductions, send your resume to the right people. That is all. Just opening doors. You walk through them with your own talent. Nora felt tears prick her eyes. Why would you do that for me? Because last night in the park, you reminded me what it feels like to be human again, Julian said simply. That is worth more than you could possibly know. The headline stared back at her like a slap across the face. Tech billionaire Julian Foster spotted on intimate coffee date. Who is mystery woman? Nora's hands trembled as she held the smartphone belonging to Hannah, another woman at the shelter. The gossip website displayed in full color. There was the photo, her and Julian at Harbor Brew, captured in that moment when he had leaned forward with genuine interest, when she had felt seen for the first time in months. But the headline was not what made her breath catch. It was the description underneath. Julian Foster, founder and CEO of Foster Tech Solutions, estimated net worth $3 billion, appears to have found romance with an unidentified woman. $3 billion. Not a comfortable tech job. Not moderate success. Billionaire. You okay? Hannah asked from across their shared shelter room. You look like you have seen a ghost. Nora could not respond. Her mind was racing through every conversation, every moment. Julian had lied. Or more accurately, he had let her believe he was someone he was not. While she had been worrying about coffee money, he had been worth $3 billion. The betrayal cut deeper than Bradley's infidelity. Bradley had broken her heart, but Julian had given her hope and then revealed it was built on deception. She had trusted him with her vulnerability, and he had hidden his entire identity. Confrontation in the rain. Nora did not go to Harbor Brew the next morning. She could not face him, could not pretend everything was fine. But Julian found her anyway. He appeared at the shelter just after noon, his expensive car looking obscenely out of place among the shabby buildings. Nora, he called as she tried to walk past him. Please, let me explain. Explain what? She said, whirling to face him. That you are a billionaire who let me pour my heart out about being homeless? That you sat there pretending to understand poverty while you are worth billions? Rain had started falling, soaking them both, but neither moved. Julian's face showed genuine anguish. I never pretended, Nora. Everything I told you was true. You lied by omission, she shot back. That is still lying. You are right, Julian said, taking a step closer. I should have told you. But can you understand why I did not? Do you know how rare it is for someone to see me, just me, not my money or my company or what I can do for them? You looked at me like I was human, not a bank account. I needed that more than you can imagine. Understanding the past. I was 18 when my parents died, Julian continued, his voice raw. They left me nothing but debt. I lived in my car, showered at gas stations, ate whatever I could afford. I built Foster Tech from literally nothing. And you know what I learned? Money solves practical problems, but it creates new kinds of loneliness. People want you for what you can give them, not who you are. Nora felt her anger wavering. So you tested me? Let me struggle while you watched? No, Julian said firmly. I genuinely wanted to help you as one human to another. The job connections I offered were real. My feelings for you are real. The money does not change who I am inside, Nora. It does not change that I understand your pain because I lived it. Your pain had an expiration date, Nora said, but her voice had lost its sharp edge. Mine might not. Then let me help, Julian pleaded. Not because of my money, but because I care about you. Because in 3 days, you have become more important to me than anyone has been in years. The choice between fear and hope. Nora stood in the rain, looking at this man who had somehow become essential to her in such a short time. She could walk away, protect herself from potential hurt, maintain her pride. Or she could take a leap of faith, believe that his feelings were genuine despite his deception. Why me? She asked quietly. You could have anyone. Why care about a homeless woman you met in a park? Julian moved closer, close enough that she could see the raindrops on his eyelashes, the vulnerability in his eyes. Because when you asked someone to hold you that night, you were not asking me. You were asking the universe for basic human comfort. And when I held you, I felt something I had not felt in 17 years. I felt needed for who I am, not what I have. I felt seen. I am scared, Nora admitted, her voice breaking. I am scared to trust you, scared to need you, scared that this is too good to be true. I am scared too, Julian confessed. I am scared you will walk away, scared I have ruined this before it could begin, scared that I will never find this connection with anyone else. New beginnings. Nora reached out and touched his face, feeling the stubble on his jaw, the warmth of his skin despite the cold rain. If we do this, if I give you a real chance, you have to promise me something. Anything, Julian said immediately. No more secrets. No more hiding who you are or what you have. I need honesty, even when it is hard. I promise, Julian said, covering her hand with his. Complete honesty from this moment forward. And I need you to understand that I will not be a charity case, Nora continued. I will rebuild my life, with or without your help. I need to know you see me as an equal, not a project. You have never been anything less than my equal, Julian said fervently. Your strength, your dignity in the face of hardship, that humbles me, Nora. You remind me of who I was and who I never want to forget being. Nora took a deep breath, making a choice that terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. Okay. We can try this. But slowly. One day at a time. Julian's face broke into a smile that transformed his entire expression. One day at a time, he agreed. Starting with getting you out of this rain and somewhere warm. 6 months later. The gallery opening was everything Julian had promised it would be. Elegant, well-attended, featuring emerging artists who deserved recognition. But the most beautiful sight was not the art on the walls. It was Nora, radiant in a simple black dress, confidently discussing marketing strategies with the gallery owner. She had taken a marketing director position at a mid-sized firm 2 months ago, earned through her own merit after interviews Julian had arranged but not influenced. She had moved into her own apartment, modest but hers, paid for with her own salary. She was rebuilding her life brick by brick, and Julian had the privilege of watching her transformation. You are staring, Nora said, appearing at his side with champagne glasses. Can you blame me? Julian replied, accepting the glass. You are stunning. You tell me that every day, she said with a smile that still made his heart race. I will tell you every day for the rest of my life if you let me, Julian said seriously. Nora's expression softened. Julian Foster, are you planning something? Maybe, he admitted. But slowly. One day at a time, remember? One day at a time, Nora agreed, leaning into his embrace. They stood together watching the crowd, two people who had found each other at their lowest points and chosen to build something beautiful from their shared pain. The homeless woman and the billionaire who saw past wealth and poverty to the souls underneath. Julian pressed a kiss to her temple. Thank you for not walking away that day in the rain. Thank you for not letting me go that night in the park, Nora replied. Thank you for refusing to ever release me. And there, in the warm glow of gallery lights, surrounded by beauty and possibility, two broken souls stood whole together, proof that sometimes the most unlikely connections become the most powerful love stories.